All right, so we are finishing up section 3-2, you guys. And last week we talked about 2 connective statements, and we're going to finish up the other 2. So first of all, our objectives are to express compound statements in symbolic form. We're going to express symbolic statements with parentheses. Some of you might have seen some of those in the homework if you went ahead and did them. And you're going to see about how to use the dominance of connectives. So remember, what is a simple statement? Yeah, it's just a statement. It has no connectives in it, and it's just has one subject in it, right? Okay? A compound statement is what? Yep, it is a combination of 2 simple statements, okay, with a connective. What are our connectives again? And, or, if, then, and if and only if, right? Okay. So these are our connectives. It shows here. Okay. And these are some of the symbols that we didn't talk about last week. The if and then, this is the symbol for that. And then the if and only if is the double arrow. So that's something new today. Notice that the if and only if, the double arrow, that means you could write it the first statement or the second statement, either first or second, and switch them. It doesn't matter because it's an if and only if statement. So that's part of the reason why it has a double arrow. On the first one, whatever statement you say first, it matters. Order matters. Okay? So let's talk about this next example here. P, I'm going to the In-N-Out Burger. Q, I'm getting a double-double. Write the statement symbolically. Okay. So if we were going to take this, I'm going to the In-N-Out Burger and getting a double-double. It's going to be what? P and Q, like this, right? Okay. The second one is I'm going to the In-N-Out Burger or I'm getting a double-double. It would be P, Q, like that. Okay. Now the next one is new for you today. If I'm going out to the In-N-Out Burger, then I'm getting a double-double. That's going to be a P and then an arrow Q. Because of the if and then statement there. And that's what you need to look for. The last one, I believe, is an if and only if statement. If, oh, nope, it isn't. If I'm not getting a double-double, then I'm not going to the In-N-Out Burger. So we got some negatives here. So this is going to be, if I'm not getting a double-double, what was that again? Not Q. Then not P. Okay? I'm going to the In-N-Out Burger if and only if I'm getting a double-double. So that one's going to be a P, and then it's going to be a double arrow Q. Okay. Does anybody have any questions about the things that I just went over? Okay, so here's some things I need you guys to write down. There's a whole bunch here. You're going to want these in your notes. Okay? Remember the other day when we talked about the connective statement and there were several different ways of saying it? Well, this is the same with the if, ... then. So this is the one that you're familiar with is the if then. But the other ways of saying it in English could be Q if P, and if we're using these statements, P, a person is a firefighter, and Q, a person is a hero. So if we're looking at this one right here, a person is a hero if that person is a firefighter. Notice that there's no then in that statement, but it's still the same type of statement. Yes, you need to have this in your notes. Yep. Okay. Then there's also P is sufficient for Q. So being a firefighter is sufficient for being a hero. It's another example of that. Q is necessary for P. Being a hero is necessary for being a firefighter. I'm not really sure why they put a question mark on that end of that. I think that might be a typo. P only if Q. A person is a firefighter only if that person is a hero. Don't get this confused with if and only if. This is just an only if. Okay? And then the last one is only if Q, P. Only if a person is a hero is that person a firefighter. So be careful about these. This is not the other one where it's if and only if. This is just an only if. Okay, so one little thing I wanted to talk about here is at the bottom, this is an example of the book too. It says there are no poets who are not writers. And if a person is a poet, then that person is a writer. And if you were to look at the Venn diagram of that, it would look like this. Okay? So this is one of those things where it's all included inside. Okay, here's another long one that you guys are going to have to write down. And this is the last one. Okay, so on this one, we're talking about if and only if statements. And we have P and Q. P being a person passes a course. Q, a person gets credit for a course. So, P, if and only if. This is the one that we honestly see most often are these two right here on this. So a person passes a course if and only if that person gets credit for the course. And the second one, a person gets credit for the course if and only if the person passes the course. And notice that it doesn't really matter which one is listed first, P or Q. It doesn't matter. This is written wrong, by the way. Let's change it. It should be Q first, P. Okay? If P then Q and if Q then P. That's another way of saying if and only if. P is necessary and sufficient for Q. So if a person passes a course, then that person gets credit for the course. And, notice there's an and there, if a person gets credit for the course, then the person passes the course. Notice that this one right here is the one I'm concerned about. There's a typo here. Right here. It should be Q, then P. Okay, Q is necessary for P. It should be this. Nope, because that's an if P, then Q still. It's just written backwards. So this one would still be like this. Okay, so that one is the typo on that page. All right. Also, this should not be a question mark. It should just be a period. Okay, so let's go back to our last chart. We need to get the last part of it. The bottom. Q is necessary and sufficient for P. Notice that there's also a typo here. It should be Q like that. Okay? Okay, so now we want to talk about parentheses. And so you're going to see these occasionally. The parentheses helps to figure out things a little bit more, especially if you have 3 different statements. It's important. It kind of helps to release some confusion. But on this first one, we have M. She earns $120,000 annually. And H, she is often happy. So it should be a not, because I think that it didn't convert to Word well. So this should be a not. So put a not there. Not, parenthesis, M and H, parenthesis. Okay? If I were to write this out for number 1, it would be like this. It is not true. Okay, so that's the first thing I'm going to write. It is not true that she earns $120,000 annually. And she is often happy. So that's the first example. So if you find the not symbol before the parenthesis, you would probably want to say it like something like this. It is not true that. Okay? The second one, it's a not H or M. So this one would be, she is not often happy, or she earns $120,000 annually. No, you don't put them in the English form. Oh, no, For number 2, no. Okay? Because I'm wanting to show you the difference between some of them without the parentheses and some with. Okay, number 3 should be a not parenthesis H, if H, then M. Okay? So this one, it would be, it is not true that. It is not true that if she is often happy, then she earns $120,000. So on this last one, it says the plant is fertilized for P. Q is the plant is not watered, and R is the plant wilts. Okay? For these boxes here, you can put a not symbol because, like I said, it didn't translate from one thing to the other for whatever reason. Okay? So for 4, you have an and, you have a not, and then you have an if then, and then a not. So this is going to be if the plant is fertilized and not watered. Then it, the plant, will not wilt. Okay? So, there should be a little comma here. Right? Do you have a question?
When if the plants fertilized and watered, to be like not.
You are right. I got that wrong. Question was, shouldn't it be the negative of Q? And I was thinking Q was a positive. So I need to change that. So this should be, if the plant is fertilized and watered, then the plant will not wilt. Thank you. Okay, the second one. The second one is P and parenthesis, not Q. If not Q, then R. So we're going to write this way. The plant is fertilized comma. And if the plant is not watered, then the plant will not wilt. Okay? So it says Q, so Q would be the first one that would be written down right here. So if the plant is fertilized, that's P, then, first of all, it said the plant is fertilized, and if the plant is is watered. Oh, we did it again. You could tell I was working on this late last night. Okay, if the plant is watered, then the plant will not wilt. Thank you. All right. So, one of the things I wanted to talk about is on here, it says, notice that we translate the symbolic statement into English. The simple statements in parentheses appear on the same side of the comma. Notice the commas on here, guys. Here's a comma. Here's a comma. Okay? So the comma, if there's a parentheses usually in there, it's going to be separated by a comma in the English. Okay? Okay, it says if a symbolic statement appears without parentheses, statements before and after the most dominant connective should be grouped. So here we are going from least dominant to greatest. And by the way, this should be a squiggly line right here, right? Okay? So the least dominant connective is a negation. Okay? And it goes further to the right. Conjunction, disjunction, and or. This is an if-then statement. If-then statements are conditional, by the way. If I were to say write a conditional statement, you know that this should be an if-then. Okay? And a biconditional is if and only if. You could write if and only if as an IFF for short. If and only if. All right? So if I were to actually try to group these ones down below and put in parentheses, because there's several things going on here. Oops. What I would do is look at what is the most dominant. Well, this one's the most dominant of everything in here, right? So I'm going to put parentheses on the other stuff around it. So this one right here would be put a parentheses in. Okay? On the second one, what's the most dominant? Yeah, the conditional statement right here. So I'm going to put a parentheses around this. So you really need to base where you put your parentheses based on the dominance of the conditional statement, or the connectives, okay? So here's more. This should be a negative. Okay, so what's most dominant on this one? It's this part right here. So what I'm going to do is put parentheses around this. And the same for this one because we have a biconditional, and that's a higher dominance than the conditional. And I think I have two more examples down below here. Yep, here we are. So on this one right here, we have a conditional and a biconditional. So I'm going to put parentheses around these two. And on this one, on the end, we actually have quite a few things going on here. But we have a conditional in the middle. So I'm going to put parentheses around the outside ones. These are all conditional, or not conditional, this is an and or statement, and they're equal in dominance. So you can't really put a parentheses around it, so you can assume from left to right. Okay? So just work from left to right on this one.